After barely passing the popular vote in 2008 and years of court battles up to the Supreme Court after that, Proposition 8 finally died in June this year. So how did this thing that even the state didn't want to defend come to be passed by popular vote in the first place? To me, it all boils down to a question of message control versus authenticity. And it started with a language war on the ballot itself. The YxNoOnProp8 proponents were kind of upset that they had to say the thing that the proposition actually did, which was to eliminate the right to marry. They thought it was prejudice and argumentative. So this is when they started making their stated campaign goal to actually be use language to raise doubts and implicate consequences, doing this brilliant thing that had never been done before, to mount a no vote for a yes campaign. Meanwhile, they also exploited the good fine yes properties of protecting children and families and good things that we need to do, and the fact that it's all very rosy and quite good, while employing this vote that was going to strip away rights. Meanwhile, the YxNoOnProp8 campaign had a problem. We had great messaging to say, yay, good equality, but you wanted to really vote no, whereas you really needed to vote no to say yes to same-sex marriage. It was really quite a big mess, and we used a lot of people just by that. So the YxNoOnProp8 folks trounced into social networks online with this relative message discipline. You can actually see, this is an official campaign tweet toward the election saying, I'm sorry, I don't really have time to be on the social networks. And they also relied a lot on protection and fear, and yes, that did happen. And yes, that is Protect America's account, protected today on Twitter. And another thing that they did, in contrast to the YxNoOnProp8 folks, where we were alive on the social networks, very chatty, and those things continue to this day, and some of the wins that we've seen in recent years, as well as 20% growth in the month after losing the right to marriage alone. So whereas the grassroots for YxNoOnProp8 folks were the religious denominations that relied on the churches for massive fundraising as well as volunteer efforts through the campaign as well as through the trials afterwards. For the non-profit, because as you all know, it's hard to argue with the law of God. But the law of the land is argumentative itself. And in fact, it starts with a thing called oral argument. So for the YxNoOnProp8 folks, social networks were our churches. And we actually were argumentative, supportive, cantankerous, herding cats, circular firing squad, all of those good things that involve conversation and actually authenticity. We also went on into YouTube. Both Yes and No uploaded hundreds of videos to YouTube, whereas YxNoOnProp8 tended to be more open to informal content. Where the Yes folks, the content tended toward more scripted and professional. It's a case in point for a first in an American political campaign ever. The No folks paid to air 2 ads that were created by the grassroots. In the bottom one, these are all straight moms, and they're not actors coming out against Prop 8. Whereas YxNoOnProp8 decided we were going to bet the farm on this thing about gay marriage being taught in schools. It had already happened, in fact. There were ones in Massachusetts who were upset when their son came home saying, I can marry a boy. And lo and behold, in San Francisco, a classroom visits a lesbian wedding. And the campaign was handed to YxNoOnProp8. When you also may recall in that year, to Gavin Newsom's Howard Dean moment, he called it, it's going to happen now, whether you like it or not. And he said of this moment that he wanted to get it to go away. You can't get it to go away, though. The point is, when you hand wave over this broad you can implicate consequences that are far greater than the one sentence in the proposition. It's religious freedom. It's the Constitution. It's children. It's society itself is on the line. You're not homophobic. It's very easy to do in our world. And yet, isn't it all about the children, the families, the rainbows, the ponies, and the unicorns, and the diversity? Because Gavin Newsom, as he said at this moment, are we more or less authentic when we're always on? Or are we going to become more forgiving of our mistakes as a society? Because to me, authenticity might not win at first, but it always wins in the end. Diversity always wins over the rainbow.